What is up, YouTube? It is the Ville Outdoors here. Today is July 11th of 2022. I am here at a spot I have never fished before. This is kind of just right outside of Philadelphia, near the Philadelphia airport. And supposedly there's snakehead somewhere around here or in the area behind me. The area behind me, I was looking, and all the banks have like signs on them that says no fishing from beyond this point, or something like that. So looks like we're going to be doing a bit of walking today to try and find where we can fish here, because I know we can definitely fish here. I've seen plenty of pictures and video, but basically the plan today is to try and catch my first ever snakehead if possible, and to pretty much go after any other species that show up. Don't know what all is in here. I just have seen pictures of what could be in here, so we're just going to be casting around today and see what comes up. Doing a lot of walking around, like I said, and hopefully we can catch some fish. I got both my bass rods with me, starting off with the favorite 6 stick, medium heavy, and I got a little black topwater frog on there right now. That'll probably change as the day goes on, but this is what we're working. The beginning of the video here. So we're just gonna work this along the creek here, hit the refuge behind me if I find a spot where we can actually fish, and hopefully catch some fish. That's the plan. So stick with it, stay tuned, and let's hope for a good day today. Alright guys, apparently I walked or parked at the wrong side of this reservoir when it comes to fishing, because there was no fishing allowed whatsoever on that bank that I was at originally. I could fish off in like the little creek area, but this is where I wanted to fish, in the reservoir area. This is apparently where the good snakeheads are at, if they're in here. Alright guys, this place has very limited bank access. I'm hoping I don't have to switch spots, because I already walked probably a couple of miles, and walking back to the car is not going to be any shorter. Supposedly there's a pond somewhere back here that you're able to fish at, and hopefully should have some good access points. But that reservoir or marsh area over there hardly has any good access points, which sucks, because that's where I really was planning on fishing. But yeah, this stuff is as thick as can be over here. Next time I come here, this will be like an early spring type thing, because this is real thick stuff. Well guys, I made it to the pond, and the fishing dock that you're supposed to fish off of is chained off, and it's about 10 feet from the bank. So it looks like we're not going to be fishing this pond, unfortunately. There's no other good access points, and casting around is just a bunch of tangles and whatnot over here. That sucks. Really hoping I wouldn't have to move spots, but it looks like I might have to. Guys, there's a snakehead that was following my bait in right now. He's not chasing it though. He's looking at it. He's looking at it still. There's another one looking at it now. frog is sinking. That can't be good. Oh man. Alright guys, I haven't had much luck out on the main reservoir, so I took back to the creek. I just caught my first fish of the day, a little tiny red-breast sunfish. I actually don't have any worms on me. I was trying to catch what I believe was a mummy chog, which would be a new species for me out of this creek. So I took apart a piece of my granola bar that I was eating and took out the oats and threaded the oats onto the little Tanago hook. We got ourselves a little red-breast sunfish. I tried digging for worms and didn't find any. For some reason the soil is really dry over here, and the logs that I flipped over yielded no such worms. So now I found a little piece of plant root that I'm going to try and use and see if I can find that school of mummy chog again. Alright, let's get our plant root ready to go on the hook here. Kind of looks like a little piece of worm, but it's not. So let's see if they'll come back for it. Alright guys, it took me forever to catch one, but I finally caught one. I believe this is an eastern mosquito fish or a mummy chog. I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to release this guy. Well, the goal of this trip was to try and catch a new species, and I was hoping that was going to be the Northern Snakehead. The day is still not over yet, but I'm happy I may have just caught a new species. I have to stand in mud to get them, but the micro hook worked. I finally found a piece of worm. It took me forever to do so, but hopefully we can catch another one just to have multiple samples. It's good to have multiple pictures for identification purposes. Alright guys, we got specimen number 2 here. Cool little fish. Still think it's a mummy chog. It has like a little bit of bands on it, like stripes. I don't think it's a banded killifish. I've caught them before and none of them have really looked like that. Those ones that I'm catching now are much more fatter. The banded killifish I've caught in the past have been pretty slender. This is a smaller sample here that I just dropped into the bushes behind me. Now this one looks like characteristically a mummy chog. Let's take a shot of this one and release him. Alright guys, time to send this little guy back in the water. And off he goes. Try and catch 1 or 2 more and then we'll move on, try and find a different spot. There's so many of them, it's ridiculous. It's like a school of 100 right here. Alright, well I lost my bait, so I guess that's it. 3 fish will be enough to sample that school. I don't think there's any other species in there. So we'll head back, get our rest of our gear and keep moving on. Alright guys, I'm gonna walk back to where I spooked the snakehead and see if it came back. They were doing some pumping over there, water pumping, which is the reason I left, because they pulled up to do that. So we're gonna go see if they're done and see if that snakehead came back. So if he did, I'm gonna try and catch him one more time. Alright guys, getting closer to the spot now. I think I hear the pump running, but I'm gonna walk up a bit more just to be sure. If not, then I'm just gonna head back to the creek around where I was at and probably tie on a trout magnet and see if there's anything that'll bite. Alright guys, we are back at the creek. Very dirty stained water back here. So we got on a black and chartreuse trout magnet. And we're gonna see if we can make something happen here. It's a little late in the morning now. It's about 10:30 or so. So the morning bite is kind of going to die down, but we're going to see if we can catch a few more fish out here before we wrap up the day. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go back to where we saw the snakeheads because they were still pumping back there, but hopefully we can find some fish and catch a few more before the day ends. Alright guys, for my last attempt at success here, I have the leftover worm I have from my micro fishing on a trout magnet jig head. I got a split shot about 6 inches above that, holding it down. I'm just going to cast this out here, sit on this nice little bench behind me, and see if I can get a bite. I did see a goldfish just swimming in front of me. Not the kind that you have in your fish tank, but the invasive species over from Asia. So I'm gonna go over and cast this out there and wait and see if we can get a bite. Well guys, we got a fish and it is a little white perch. Haven't caught a white perch in quite some time, so cool for it to show up. It did take all my worm though, but there he is. My first one in quite some time. I think my first one on footage on this channel. But we're gonna go ahead and take a shot of this guy and then we're gonna let him go. Well, I was going to give you a nice release of that white perch, but he'd just decided he wanted to jump off back into the water. I do still have a tiny piece of worm on here. I don't know if anything's going to bite this. I might have to dig around and see if I can find another piece just to reimburse that. But if I can't find another piece of worm, we're just going to have to work with that. Alright guys, I have another worm in the water that I dug up right now. And I found a few more, but I might save those for another fishing trip. I don't want to waste them all today, because certain spots it's hard to find worms, so I don't want to use all the worms I have found here. Just with like soil conditions and stuff like that, certain places have lesser quantities of them. And microfishing, you definitely need worms. And that's what I plan to do a little bit on our next fishing trip, which might possibly be to Maryland, might possibly be to New Jersey. There's a bunch of different spots that I have wanting to fish, but haven't gotten the chance to yet. Just found out about them just recently, so hopefully we can fish some of those before the summer ends, because as much as I don't like to say it, it's coming quick. Alright guys, well, that is going to do it for today. Bite slowed down a lot. Sorry we couldn't get more action or more fish on the board today, but today was just one of those days where things didn't go according to the plan, and some days are just like that and there's no way around it. You just got to keep trying and hope that things are going to turn out your way, but sometimes they will and sometimes they won't. And today, unfortunately, it did not turn out the way that we wanted it to. We did come in contact with a couple of snakeheads that were following my frog earlier in the day, but of course they had to be pumping water right where those fish were, and when I walked back down there they were still pumping. But I can't say I didn't try. I did at least 6 miles today, according to my health app on my phone. And we didn't catch a whole lot, but we did catch a new species for my life list, which is, I guess, a win, you could say. It was number 78 on my list, the mummy chog. It was those little minnow type fish that we were catching earlier in the video. We caught 3 of them. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of the Ville Outdoors.